Tonight's show will include minimal discussion of Shohei Ohtani, so if you are obsessed with backup quarterbacks, take your deflated Adolis Garcia-looking ass out of here.
That was a public service announcement.
That's what we do here.
Welcome aboard the 4 to 7 pod. We are back. It's been a minute. That public service announcement was not directed at anyone in particular, but if you are someone who finds yourself doing tricks on it for Shohei Ohtani while his
the McDonald's breakfast menu is still open.
Yeah, while the McDonald's breakfast menu is still a dietary option. It's not the dietary option I would choose, but there are still several options available at this hour before dick eating. But yeah, if you are someone who finds yourself doing tricks for Shohei Ohtani while his interpreter wrongfully rots in prison, you might want to change the channel or watch something else because this isn't what we're here for. But we are back after a brief little mini hiatus, I guess you could call it. It has been a couple of weeks since we've actually recorded. We haven't actually recorded a pod together since before the World Series.
Anything happen?
Yeah, no, nothing of note. That's why we didn't record.
Oh.
But but Jerry did hold it down with some shorts, during and after the World Series that was able to hold the channel over until we were ready to reunite here. But yeah, no, definitely probably the best World Series of the last 10 years, I would say, outside of Cubs Cleveland. There really isn't another World Series in the past decade that I think really comes close. I mean, Astros Dodgers was pretty good, but like the Game 7 of Astros Dodgers was so underwhelming, especially in comparison to the Game 7 of this World Series.
This is why I think I would have 2025 above those two, because to me 2016 is kind of the reverse of that. Is everyone remembers the end of 2016, and rightfully so, because that is one of the greatest games ever. But it's like, okay, what happened in the first 6 games? People can't really tell you. I think a lot of people can tell you about the insanity of the first 6 games of Astros Dodgers, but as we mentioned during our special, about 10 pitches into Game 7, you're like,
this is over.
Crap, they're done.
Yeah.
This one, every time you thought you had a good idea of what was going to happen, it flipped. Like the Blue Jays lose that 18-inning game, and you're like, well, that's tough to get back up from. Then it's 3-2, and it's like,
yeah, then they get back up from it, and then
like, man, the Dodgers don't really have an answer for this.
Yeah,
Game 7.
The Blue Jays, I mean, by all accounts, the Blue Jays looked like the better team, I thought, through honestly a lot of the series.
I would agree.
I mean, they blew the doors off them Game 1. Yamamoto comes back and shuts them down Game 2 with the sweet potatoes, and then Game 3. Game 3. I mean, really, this was like an 8-game World Series, considering Game 3 went 9 innings, or 18 innings and 9 extra. Then Game 4, Blue Jays answer back, and then they kind of beat the brakes off them Game 5.
You did it again.
Yeah, and then you had Yamamoto with another Yamamoto performance in Game 6, and but then in Game 7, like it feels like Toronto's gonna run away with it early, and then the Dodgers just kind of kept hanging around, just kind of kept like chipping away a little bit at the lead. Not that it was like an insurmountable lead by any means, but they just kind of kept chipping away, a home run here and there, and next thing you know, Miguel Rojas ties it, and then you have the insanity of the bottom of the 9th of that game, and then and then the 11th inning, and then Will Smith does it, and even in that bottom of the 11th, it kind of looked like the Blue Jays were gonna at least tie it, if not maybe win it, when the Dodgers were like clinging to that lead, and then that double play just happened so fast, and it's like, oh shit, it's over, they won.
I don't know how everyone else felt, but I want to say that they referenced Kirk's foot speed at either as he was coming to the plate or after the first pitch, where it's like, well, in a spot like this, he is graded as the slowest runner in the league. Like a ground ball here might end it, and I'm like, oh, that feels foreboding. I mean, it couldn't have been more than 20 seconds after they said it at the ground ball. Like,
and it was
son of a bitch.
Yeah, well, yeah, well, we know who the Fox announcers were rooting for too. But
see, I generally think Joe Davis does a really good job.
He does.
Now, I say this as someone who did not listen to the NLCS last year for exactly to avoid exactly this reason, because I've heard him do national games and I've heard him do Dodger games. To me, it's about the same. And maybe this is me like trying to shoot guys bail because I've done that job. So it's like, I think especially if you're Joe Davis, it's like you're the second lead voice for Fox ever. Like you're following Joe Buck. Like you're going to be the World Series voice. Like you don't want to have that levied against you. So I feel like I think he's trying to go out of his way to make sure people don't do that. But
Joe Davis does do a very good job, but like specifically the last 2 years when the Dodgers, when the Dodgers have won the World Series, I could hear I think you could hear a little bit in his voice, like that, this is like the team he actually like covers, and that, maybe there was a little bit more, excitement, and not a lot, but maybe a little bit more excitement and a little bit more creativity for the call for that moment.
Now, in his defense, he's called 4 World Series and they've won 2 of them. So it's like,
there's
if we were getting this all the time, I'd be okay, yeah, he is putting a little more on it. But it's like we only have the Astros in 22, the Rangers in 23, and then this. So it's like, let's see where it goes. You know, if we have another 5 years of like, well, there's different teams in there, and it's like, man, but he wasn't really pushing it that hard for the other team, then okay, maybe we got a case.
Yeah, we'll see. All we can judge, all I can judge by is the small sample size that we have so far. But
That's fair.
But yeah, definitely a World Series for the ages. Congrats to the Dodgers. I'm glad the Blue Jays didn't win, but if someone, for the love of God, could step up and stop this team from three-peating, that would be ideal. If maybe we could do it, that would be great. Hey, if the Mets wanna nut up and do it, that's cool too.
And listen, I think we're a Yankee and Met podcast. We both left this World Series with something, because who's ultimately the guy that can get scapegoated for the Blue Jays not winning it?
IKF.
And I can say
which especially hits different with being a Yankees, with like also kind of being an honorary Pirates fan. So
I got to imagine you were walking around like, I told you, I said this for 4 years. Nobody listened to me.
Yeah, the whole group chat, our whole group chat of friends, like me, Paul, the Yankee fans, and then the rest of our Pittsburgh friends who are like all diehard Pirates fans, for what it's worth. I mean, there's, I think, people think of Pittsburgh as more of a baseball or a hockey city, and it is. Or not baseball, football, Steelers and Penguin city, but there is a small niche of like diehard Pirates fans, and like 3 of them happen to be some of my best friends. So the whole group chat at that moment is like, oh yeah, IKF's gonna like do something here.
Oh, we have some hot stove action breaking right now.
We have breaking news.
The Orioles have traded Grayson Rodriguez to the Angels in exchange for Taylor Ward.
Huh. Interesting.
Okay.
That's an interesting trade.
It makes, I would be very skeptical of this if I were an Angels fan. I mean, obviously for a million reasons, but the Orioles need pitching. Grayson Rodriguez has been the guy that they have pinned this on for years, being like, he was the homegrown prospect. He was the high draft pick.
Supposed to be the guy.
Yeah. And they just give up on him. And you gave away Taylor. Like, there's a lot of teams that would
I will, yeah. No,
Yeah,
I think
and
there's a
I'm not
lot of
even
teams
saying
that
like
would love.
Grayson Rodriguez is busted, but like
I think there's a lot of teams that
I'm
would
sure you
love
could
to have a
probably get
Taylor
more for
Ward on
Taylor
their
Ward
team.
than that. Would be my guess.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah, it's kind of weird business for both teams. I mean, I see the angle. I do see the angle for the Orioles in a way. They probably figured that, Grayson Rodriguez was like damaged goods at this point, or he was drafted in 2018. Maybe they weren't expecting him to necessarily be. Maybe they weren't necessarily expecting him to be as big a part of the solution as they thought, and they figured, hey, we lost a guy in Anthony Santander who provided basically 35 home runs or 40 home runs to our offense. Let's get a guy like Taylor Ward, who is just coming off a 36 home run season, to kind of fill that void in the outfield.
This is from
I
Jake
feel like
Lazar, the guy I follow on Blue Sky. He's an Orioles fan. Taylor Ward has slugged 431 over the past 4 seasons. The Orioles as a team the past 3 years have slugged 421, 435, 394. It's you have a clear MVP candidate in Gunnar Henderson. Nobody really knows what's happening with Adley
Gunnar
Rutschman.
Henderson kind of had a fall off this past year.
That too. So it's like, okay, are we going to get 2024 Gunnar back? Jackson Holiday hasn't quite made the jump just yet. Jordan Westberg's good, but he was injured.
And I think there's like a ceiling to how good Jordan Westberg can really be.
Yeah.
Like, he's a fine ball player. I just don't think there's like another level that he like hasn't reached yet. Like, I think he's like an above average player, and that's it. He's not like, he's not like part of like your core necessarily.
And I should point out that Grayson Rodriguez turned 26 this past Sunday. He has thrown 238 innings in his career.
Yeah, that
seems bad.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're probably just tired of dealing with that, like just dealing with the constant trips, on and off the IL. His ERA was in the 4s, so it seemed like he just couldn't really figure it out. And I mean,
he last threw a pitch in the major leagues on July 31st, 2024.
Yeah, they might. I'm sure. Obviously, this is all pending physicals and stuff like that. So, I would say, who knows? I mean, well, the Angels aren't exactly an intelligent team, so I feel like even if I feel like whatever physical they're giving Grayson Rodriguez, like they probably, even then, because I was gonna say maybe like this is a trade that gets nulled due to physicals or something, but I don't know if the Angels, considering the Angels don't have like running water or like working air conditioner in their like facilities.
Yeah.
Maybe that physical ain't gonna be too thorough. So that trade will probably hold up. I think the commissioner will be pressing pressing that forced trade button to get everyone's rosters up to date.
I don't know how much attention anyone's been paying to the Tyler Skaggs trial or Eric Kay, who ultimately is being held responsible for Tyler Skaggs' death.
Is that the drug dealer?
Well, he was like the team PR guy that was supplying him the stuff.
Oh, so he was like buying the drugs and like giving it to him.
Yeah. So and it's kind of
it's like damning on the organization.
The entire organization on trial, and boy, none of this is good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess they figure they're taking a flyer on a pitcher, and maybe he's often injured, but maybe I mean the Angels have needed pitching for a very long time, and obviously even with an outfield of Taylor Ward, who's by no means a slouch, and Mike Trout when he's healthy, and Joe Adele, they still decided that, like they weren't winning that way. So you need something on the other side. So I think that the deal, I think the deal kind of makes sense for both sides, but I would say that the early indications are this looks like a better trade. This looks like a better trade for the Orioles than it does for the Angels.
I think at least in terms of where the Orioles are, where it's, they needed to invest in pitching last year, especially once Corbin Burns wasn't coming. And then they went out and it's like they signed Charlie Morton. They brought Kyle Gibson back. Like Zach Eflin was one of their top 3. Like that's clearly what sunk their seat. Like, yeah, some of the bats did regress and that didn't help. But like you knew once Corbin Burns was gone, it was okay. Well, who are you really counting on every 5 days? We kind of knew this was a problem for them.
Yeah.
And it ultimately caught up to them. So to me, this is interesting in that this is the Orioles acknowledging that and going, okay, we're not going to get,
Yeah, and they clearly don't see Grayson Rodriguez as part of the solution.
Yeah,
with how bad their pitching was last year.
Yeah, it's like we tried everything and this isn't going to work, so let's fix something. So it makes me think like, okay, so what's going to be the next move after this? They're clearly not going to stand still.
Yeah, they're clearly making moves. I think the Orioles are probably in more of a. I know they had a down year last year, but I'm pretty sure their approach, at least it should be, still to try and win and improve on the roster. I think like last year might have even been a little bit fluky. Like I expect the Orioles to like be back in the mix next year, especially if and when they do, improve their pitching staff.
The East might finally be the 5-man
where
match we've been waiting for.
Maction baseball.
Yeah, this is gonna be stone cold, like just knocking everybody out. Like it's gonna be the Royal Rumble of 5 teams just beating the hell out of each other.
Yeah, you know what? I welcome the smoke because we've been hearing that the AL East. And I always have pride in like the, even though I hate all the other teams in our division, I've always had pride like in being an AL East team, and that like, hey, like we play in like one of the toughest divisions in baseball, like more often than not. So if it's finally like a point where all 5 teams in the division are competitive, as stressful as it will be, I will definitely welcome the smoke.
As a fan of an NFC South team, I do not welcome that at all. Tell you, this shit is good living right here.
Yeah. Hey, well, we both live in the Metro division, which is also very often a shit show to the nth degree, and
comedy everywhere.
Yeah. It's a comedic shit show, but it's also like, I'd say it's like a very competitive division. I mean,
half the fun is taking out your rivals with you.
Yeah. Half the fun is just like cucking the other teams you hate.
I'm not winning a Stanley Cup. Cool. Neither are you, Carolina.
Yeah. Like, hey, you can sweep us, but it might cost you getting us a generational prospect. But yeah, no, interesting trade, and I guess that's the first real move of the that's the first like real move of the offseason. It was very nice of Major League Baseball to wait until we hopped back on the airwaves to start making moves. We've all we really had is rumors up to this point, although we did have a little more news, which we'll get to in a second. But so this is by all indications, this is just a 1-for-1 trade, right? There's no prospects or nothing else involved. No cash.
I don't know if this falls under the Michael Baumann definition of a challenge trade, but this is one of those, like, the Angels are trading Taylor Ward, who has been a legitimate run producer for 4 years now, and this is the Angels going, we think we can get better if we do this. Like they're banking on Grayson Rodriguez being the best version of himself that everybody projected for him as a prospect. And this is the Orioles going, yeah, we need starting pitching, and we know we have this guy, we're
But
not
he
sure we
ain't
can
it.
count on him.
He
We
ain't
need
it,
hitting,
and
though.
we need another outfielder that can hit 35 home runs.
So I don't know if it's a true definition of a challenge trade, but I think it's in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue, Taylor Ward might be even better than Anthony Santander. I feel like he has like a better eye. He gets on base at a higher clip, and I feel like he can play a little better defense. Like I think his defense is at least
I feel like you
average.
could play Taylor Ward in center.
Yeah, like you could get by if you're really in a pinch and need him to play in center. You could get by with it. So yeah, no, I think the Orioles definitely got better with this trade. The Angels, it remains to be seen, and I guess they're not doing a physical at all because like the Angels Instagram has already like officially posted that they got Grayson Rodriguez. So yeah, that physical must have been like the meme with like the security guard and the security guard like looks kind of blind and he's just like all right, come through. Yeah. So
seeing here that Grayson Rodriguez has 4 years of team control left.
Yeah, and
that's big.
That is big. Yeah. So, I think this move indicates that the Orioles are going to be in go for it mode like the whole offseason. Because, I mean, granted, there's a lot of uncertainty with how teams are going to be spending this year with the impending lockout on the horizon. And, of course, we're going to hear, you're not going to stop hearing about that really until, unfortunately, you're not going to stop hearing about that like until it gets resolved.
I mean, this was how it was in 2021 as well.
Yeah, in 21, 22. Yeah. And I think it's going to get even uglier, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just like one of those things you're going to hear about. And it's super unfortunate because baseball, like, has really been killing it. Like, in a, not even like, I think the game is as good as it's ever been. Like we may not love Manfred, but I think a lot of the rule changes and stuff, like, the pitch clock made games more digestible. People are going to games. People are watching games. There's a lot of baseball, like in pop culture and stuff now. Like, baseball's like back on like not even just like being like, back on like, because it was kind of fading in like the American eye, but now it's like back on the global stage. So it would really be very baseball to lose all this momentum over a stupid lockout next year.
And especially when you're coming off an all-time heater of a postseason at that.
Yeah. But I mean, Taylor Ward only has 2026 on his contract. So, unless the Orioles are planning on extending him, they gave up Grayson Rodriguez for a 1-year rental. So I would imagine that, more dominoes are going to fall with whatever moves that the Orioles might make. And I mean, all indications were like when their new owners first came in, and pretty much the first thing they did was traded for Corbin Burns. So, it seemed like all indications were like, hey, like these guys mean business and they're, committed to putting a competitive product on the field. So we'll see.
And since that moment, I don't think they've had a major free agent signing, and
they have not.
We've talked about the flaws with each of those guys in that young core, but they haven't extended any of them either. Like Rutschman, I get it. Like there's legitimate concerns there, but they didn't extend Gunnar. You would have thought after 24 they would have.
Yeah, that would be a good time to get ahead of it.
Oh yeah, like the best time to do it was last year. The second best time to do it was right now.
Yeah, right now might even be a better time because he's coming off a down year. Can maybe get a slight discount, get slightly nasty in negotiations with the agent. But
so there's rightfully a lot of Oriole fans who are like, are we just getting the same ownership repackaged and we're just not going to spend like, but it's new and flashy. Like, yeah, this really does feel like this is the year where the Orioles are like, okay, well, the Yankees and Red Sox are always going to be there, but if Toronto can go from worst to first and get that close to a world title, why can't we?
Yeah,
I did see, because I do follow quite a few Oriole fans, and it seemed like after Toronto won the ALCS, and then when they went back up 3-2, there were a lot of them were like, damn it, man. Like, the Orioles haven't been to a World Series since 83. The Blue Jays are like this close to winning their third since then. The Yankees are the Yankees. The Red Sox have won 4. Like, even the Rays have went to 2 World Series. We can't get to 1.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot of
Even the Rays have
rivaling.
2 World Series appearances. No, that's a good point. Yeah, the Orioles have, being in this division, they have a lot of pressure to, get themselves out of the mud and get back into contention. Especially with like all the history of the other organizations. So this is the first, this is like the first move of the year where like, you have players switching teams, but we did have some earlier today. We did have some other transactions take place. Trent Grisham accepted his 1-year qualifying offer from the New York Yankees, and then we also had Gleyber Torres accepting his 1-year qualifying offer. Shota Imanaga accepted his, and Brandon Woodruff also accepted his. So we had 4 players who accepted their qualifying offer. I guess this is kind of like a 2-part segment in this regard, because there's the Yankees front and the Yankees perspective of it, and how this move affects the Yankees and what they may or may not do as the stove continues to heat up. But I think it also, the fact that so many players accepted the qualifying offer, when I feel like the most you really hear about in an offseason is like maybe 1 or 2 players accepting a qualifying offer. And on day 1, like, or whatever, was today like the deadline to accept or decline it or something?
I believe so. I feel like that usually is in about mid-November. So
So the fact that like we had 4 people accept their qualifying offer, I think definitely, raises more questions about, what it means for the landscape of baseball as a whole. So I guess I'll start with the Yankees, the Yankees portion of it. I think, and we're gonna do, we're gonna do a little segment a little later on too, where we do, where we do our keep, trade, and DFA for different players. But what do you call it? Trent Grisham, like if we were doing this segment like a week ago, he's one I would have said just let him walk. Because I think it's a little sus that he he didn't have his breakout year until this year, where he's his age 29 season that he had his breakout year. We already have like a kind of crowded outfield, an outfield that figures to get more crowded when Spencer Jones eventually comes up, which seems like he, or at least last I heard, unless there's been any new developments, like I would assume the plan is for him to come up in spring training and probably make the team this year. So
I did see Kevin in the Discord tonight suggest that we might see a Dominguez trade in the offseason, which, oh boy.
Yeah, he did mention that. That would be something. Yeah, and the Yankees did the Yankees did select the contracts of Spencer Jones, Elmer Rodriguez, and Chase Hansen. So they're on the current 40-man roster, so like they can't get claimed in the Rule 5 draft.
I think they were up against that because the Mets added a couple of guys who were decent prospects, but they're not like Jet Williams or Carson Bench. It's like, yeah, Nick Morabito's good, but he's on the 40-man, and then you're like, no, they had to do that. So
yeah,
those you can understand.
Yeah, that would tell me though that that would tell me that we're also a lot closer to seeing Spencer Jones, like assuming he's on the team and he's not included in some sort of big blockbuster trade that I'm either thinking about or not thinking about right now. Paul Fiends, Tariq School, whoever you want to put your nuts on the table for. Really, I'm cool with putting your nuts on the table for either one of those guys because they're both incredible.
Give me Skubal though. I think Skubel's a little bit better than Skeens. He's a lefty, so you can kind of negate the opposing lefties in Yankee Stadium because they have a short porch too. And I don't know if I want to. I know Tigers fans have done their fair share of suffering too. But yeah, if I have a choice between Skubal and Skeens, I do think Skubel's slightly better than Skeens. Although it's like which Michelin star restaurant do you want to eat at, basically?
Yeah,
I
can't
don't
go
know if I
wrong
want to
with
do
either
that
one.
for the Pirates if I have that other choice. I mean, if Skeens is the only option and we have to do that to the Pirates, then absolutely do it. But yeah, I would assume that unless something like that was happening, which I still think is pretty unlikely, I think this is the year that you're going to see Spencer Jones on the team. And
I think part of it has to be like for the fact that he's been held out for this long, and we've heard so much talk about him, and there was that discussion in the summer of like, well, if you're not going to call him up, but you're not going to include him in any deals, then what are we doing here? Like,
yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah, this is kind of a shit or get off the pot moment for Cashman because it's like, okay,
Yeah,
you told us how good he is, like, show it.
Yeah, especially when Judge was hurt. Although, I mean, like, but I think like I did with like I don't want them to necessarily make the same mistake like they did with Volpe, where they're like rushing a guy along who's not ready. But I think we're at a point where Spencer Jones should be ready. He's going to be 24, 25 years old.
I think that's a big difference. Like,
yeah,
Jones is
and
already up at that age.
Outfield is a lot easier to play than shortstop. So, I think that his his power tool is definitely something that's like transferable. That obviously there's going to be an adjustment from AAA pitching to major league pitching, but I think ultimately the power tool is something that you don't have to worry about teaching that. That's something that I think is there and something that I think will translate to the big level just fine. So I do think we're going to see Spencer Jones. But yeah, as far as Trent Grisham goes, I hope it doesn't preclude them from making a run at Kyle Tucker or bringing back Cody Bellinger if all fails with Kyle Tucker. I don't think it should. Like what's $22 million to the Yankees? I don't know, but I mean, the fact that so many players accepted the qualifying offer. I mean, you do kind of wonder, are owners going to be like way less willing to spend this year with the impending lockout of 2027, and maybe they're kind of preparing their books for that.
One of the ones who accepted that's very interesting to me is my guy Brandon Woodruff, and he was set to test the open market, and it was one of those where he was coming off shoulder capsule surgery, which there's not a very extensive track record of guys coming back from that and being successful, just because there's not a lot of guys that have had that injury. Yeah. And everyone was waiting to see, like, because I think he got the injury going into the offseason of 23-24, where he was going to be a free agent and he would have made bank. And the Brewers basically gave him a 2-year deal with the knowledge of, we know you're not going to pitch in 24, go get healthy. And then when he came back this past season, his velocity was down, but I believe he added a sinker and a cutter, and his results were still really good.
Yeah,
like
he had a great
he
year.
doesn't throw as hard anymore, but he's still a very good pitcher. And it basically becomes, how long do you want to trust that his body's going to hold up? Because clearly the stuff and the talent's still there. And I just wonder if this was Brandon Woodruff looking around and going, I don't know what's going to happen. I know I can get $22 million if I take that option. Let me be safe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I think maybe the same thing happened with Grisham, because when the Yankees first gave Grisham the qualifying offer, like, a few weeks ago, my first thought was my first thought was like that it was just more of a formality than anything, that he wasn't going to take it and that he was going to hit free agency and test the market because he's coming off a career year. And, like for him, I think it would be kind of this offseason or never to get paid and get a long-term deal and have the luxury of deciding, where you're going to play baseball for the foreseeable future. And he's at the peak of his he's at the peak of his ability to cash in on his talents.
Really, the only reason teams ever, like 99% of the time, when teams extend the qualifying offer, it's basically them just covering their tracks to be like, well, hey, look, if this guy leaves, at least we'll get a compensation pick out of it. So we're not losing him for absolutely nothing. It's, hopefully we can turn this next guy into something.
Yeah.
I mean, the Yankees did that. I learned this today, actually. I didn't know that Aaron Judge was a compensation pick for Nick Swisher. Found that out.
Yeah. Judge was a comp pick for Nick Swisher. I believe when we signed Mark Teixeira off the Angels, Mike Trout became their comp pick.
David Wright was the compensation pick for Mike Hampton. So
which honestly, it's like it's still worth it because like we won a World Series, but it's crazy how those how that comp pick formula works and what those comp picks can turn into. But yeah, so it was a little surprising that he didn't accept it, or that he did accept it. But then the fact that so many other players who are also coming off of really good years by all accounts also accepted it. Makes you wonder what's going on, big picture.
The whole thing with Shota Imanaga is very interesting to me. I couldn't figure that one out at all.
Was his QO like $50 million?
Let me look. I don't know if it was that, but I know it's different. Let me I'll stall in the meantime, see if I can find what's happening there. Oh no, his is 22.
22 million. Okay, so I guess
about the same.
Okay, I guess everyone was kind of around that same. Everyone was around that same amount. So, it's a slight raise for Glaber. He was making 15 million last year, so he'll be making 22, assuming that his qualifying offer was the same.
He left NPB and signed a 4-year, $53 million deal in 2024 that included a series of options. One allowed the Cubs to extend Imanaga's contract to 5 years, but they declined that 3-year, $57.75 million option reported by The Athletic. Then Imanaga turned down a $15.25 million player option for 2026, throwing his name into the intriguing pool of free agent starting pitchers this offseason. The Cubs came back with their qualifying offer that Imanaga accepted rather than vying for a longer-term contract on the open market.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it doesn't really say like. I thought everything had been going well there. When
I saw his name on the qualifying offer list, I was like, wait, I thought they signed him to like a pretty long-term deal when he came over from Japan.
Yeah, him opting out after 2 years, I'm like, there's got to be some sort of argument going on there. Why else would they do that?
Yeah, no, I don't know. And I mean, they're about to probably lose Kyle Tucker to free agency too. So, maybe
they cannot allow him. They can't allow Kyle Tucker to go to the Dodgers. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I've seen that and the Dodgers going after Edwin Diaz. And all I want to say is this is the type of greed they talked about in the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like that seven deadly sins type of greed.
What is enough?
Yeah. Yeah. So we can't let we can't let Edwin Diaz and Kyle Tucker escape to LA. Someone's got to step in.
Especially because the Dodgers just spent money on a closer last offseason. A lot of money at that.
And then they turned Rocky Sasaki into their closer. And then they just they turned Yamamoto Remoto into their closer for Game 7. So like they have plenty of capable options to to get 3 outs at the end of the game. They don't need fucking Edwin. And I mean, yeah, I don't know where they'd even put I guess you could just I guess I don't think the Dodgers really have a viable center fielder though, like that could play center field outside of Pages.
As it turns out, they do. I still can't believe that shit worked.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if
in a moment watching with my dad, and I'm like, they're like, well, they're taking Edmund out for Pages, and they're like, well, Pages has the better arm, and it's like, yeah, but what if it's hit over his head? Like, Edmund's got better range. Pages isn't going to get to those balls. I'm a dumbass.
It happens. Yeah, no, that catch was insane too. And like, I feel like that moment, I feel like of all the key moments, like of like times where it could have been over, like that gets talked about kind of the least. Like
at that moment, I'm like, okay, Toronto did well to get the winning runs in position right there. I'm like, okay, yeah. maybe you can recover from this. Like, we've seen it in game 7s before, that it's like, a team takes a body blow and you think, okay, well, that's it. Yeah. And then they get back up. It's like, okay, maybe the Blue Jays are going to do this. And when Pages caught that, I'm like, so you have that and the Miguel Rojas home run in the space of like 20 minutes. No, yeah, and you're Rojas, not getting up from that.
Yeah, and Rojas throwing
one, maybe two, no.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know how you get up from that. Like, I don't know how you get up for next season from that.
Listen, if that game 7 happened to the Mets, Chris would be hosting this show by himself. I'm not joking.
Yeah, it would be a lot less fun.
I don't know how any Blue Jay is functioning right. We're 3 weeks out. You understand? I don't know how Blue Jay fans are functioning. Goodness, that's
yeah.
And it's happy because it's like, hey, you know what isn't getting talked about almost a month out? The Will Smith home run, the home run that actually won the game.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, hey, Will Smith's an all-star. He's generally considered one of the 2 best catchers in baseball. They pay him a lot of money. Yeah, Will Smith will do that. We've seen that.
Was that a 2 home run game for Will Smith? Didn't he hit one like in the 7th or 8th inning too?
That was Muncy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But it's like, okay, man, it's tough to lose, but like, hey, all-star, top-tier catcher did what he does. When Miguel Rojas is the guy in front of Shohei Ohtani, and you're 2 outs away, and they got Ohtani out after that.
Yeah, and then you end up getting him out. It's like, damn, yeah, that's
because the whole build-up to the 9th was like, yeah, well, if there's 2 out, like, do you pitch to him? Do you just put him on? Like, yeah, but then if you put him on, then you're in trouble because look who's right behind him. It's like, yeah, do you want to run that risk? Would you rather just take the out that's right there? Like, you just try to get him out no matter. And then a dude who wasn't good enough for the Marlins anymore was like, actually, watch this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and you get, yeah, and then just the way that whole thing played out was just insane. But yeah, I mean, I guess as far as to wrap up this whole Trent Grisham qualifying offer thing, I guess it pretty much solidifies that Trent Grisham will probably, as of this moment, he'll probably be our everyday center fielder again. I don't really expect him to have as high production next year as he did this year. I think he'll still be decent and serviceable, but I think you're going to see a fall off there. I don't know if he's necessarily going to have like the insanity run that he had for like April of last year. I think you can pencil Judge in for right field, and then that really just leaves left field, which I guess is, as of now, could be Spencer. I mean, there's so much time, but as of right now, if you're not adding anything, it's either, a platoon between Spencer Jones and Jason Dominguez, which it would be something if the Yankees did decide to trade Jason Dominguez and just kind of pull the plug on that experiment. That would be like another, experiment that you're, all things considered and considering what he was supposed to be, that would be kind of a bold move to end that experiment as early as you are. Which I don't know. I mean, Cashman is very stubborn about his homegrown prospects, so I feel like he probably still thinks Clint Frazier is like or not Clint Frazier, that Jason Dominguez is like Clint Frazier and Miguel Andujar when they were both like actually good prospects. And like, I'm only trading you for like I'm only trading for you for like a Jose Ramirez, Paul Skeens type of guy. So you're either looking at that or Kyle Tucker or Cody Bellinger. So that's kind of where you're at with the outfield. I'm okay with bringing back Grisham because you do need an everyday center fielder at the end of the day. Putting Judge out there full time. While it was fun in 2024, I don't think that's sustainable for his career.
Well, let me put it to you this way: if Trent Grisham in 2026 puts up the exact same line he did this year, would you take that?
Yeah, I would take that for sure.
And for $22 million for 1 year, you could do better. You could also do worse.
You could, yeah.
And
I don't know how
Alex Verdugo in center field 2 years ago, so it is.
Well, he was mostly our left fielder. Judge was playing center field.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Soto was playing right. And I mean that's why I was saying you've seen that Judge can play center field, but yeah, I don't think that's sustainable. He also had the biggest error of his career playing center field, so
I was gonna leave it alone.
Yeah, well, it felt like, given the circumstances, it felt like maybe it was worth a quick mention. But
I think, given what you have elsewhere, like Trent Grisham was impossibly hot to start the season. Yes.
Yeah.
But all things told, when you look at that line, okay, that's usable. That is a playable player in your lineup that
for sure,
and can contribute on multiple fronts.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I guess there's also and I don't know how hot the center field market really is going to be this offseason, or I don't know how hot the market is really going to be in general. So you probably weren't going to get much better at center field, but
unless you made a trade, and I'm not sure you want to do that.
Yeah, unless you made a trade, that's something we're not thinking of right now. But I guess the one thing I would say is that with the Yankees, I guess where like some of the frustration of the fan base comes from a little bit is that you're continuously trying to run it back instead of getting better. Like you saw how, you saw what the Blue Jays did to you in the ALDS. Like it was, largely it was, it looked like you might have had a chance here or there, but largely that was not a competitive series. And I don't think the answer to, to get to where you want to be, to get to where the Blue Jays are, like winning the AL East, and I don't think the Blue Jays are going back to the World Series. And it was kind of like it was kind of a miracle run that they got there. But still, if you want to get to that point, I don't think the answer is like just running it back.
I did not realize.
You got to find ways to get better.
I did not realize Trent Grisham's lines were as bad as they were in the postseason. That's okay. That's tough.
Yeah. That's part of the that's part of the problem too. He was, I mean, granted, no one was really hitting for us in the playoffs aside from Judge. Ironically enough, he was really the only one that was kind of pulling his weight. Like even Stanton had a pretty bad postseason, which obviously is not very like him, but yeah, Cody Bellinger was pretty bad in the playoffs too. The bats largely went quiet at a bad time.
Yeah, so Trent Grisham has been to the postseason with 3 different teams. He's had a good hitting series exactly once. Guess which one it was?
A good hitting. Oh, the Padres Mets 2022 wild card.
Survey says.
Ding ding ding. Yeah, go figure.
God damn it.
Yeah. So I don't really have any qualms with the move, but don't let this preclude you from getting Kyle Tucker. Don't let that preclude you from signing Bellinger if you do end up striking out on him. And I think you got to extend Jazz, do it sooner rather than later, but you got to find a way to get better somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where,
and I think the
or you
answer
talk
might
about like
be,
you don't let it preclude you from doing other stuff, and it's like, oh well, if we have a roster logjam, it's like, well, yeah, so you have multiple good players. Like if you can find the ones that you absolutely want for your team, like that shouldn't
find a
stop
way
you
to
from
keep
making
them.
other deals.
Yeah. Now, I am not a fan of John Boy Media at all, but they were discussing something kind of interesting on Talking Yanks that I saw like a clip of. Apparently, they were discussing, because I think like this is interesting to me, just because if you are talking about finding a way to get better somewhere, like obviously we know that like we're stuck with Anthony Volpe. You're really not getting better than Jazz at second base. Like, extend him because you have that taken care of. We know that we're stuck with Volpe. Like, it is what it is. I'm very high. I'm very bullish on Ben Rice. I think he has the potential to be the long-term answer at first base. I think that he was incredibly unlucky this year, and I think that when you see that luck start to break the other way, I think Ben Rice is gonna become a household name. I would say, and then catcher, unless there's something I'm not thinking about, Austin, it probably just is what it is with Austin Wells, and he is who he is, which is for
I
better
think
or
you
worse.
can get by with him.
It's
Honestly,
relatively fine. The position to change and get better at might be third base. And I know we just traded for Ryan McMahon, and he's good defensively, but we really don't have enough pop at that position. And I think that is what we are missing. So maybe there's a world where they trade Ryan McMahon and find a way, maybe go and nut up and get Alex Bregman.
well, this is interesting. This is on the list of shortstops who are free agents right now. And I'm not going to read through the whole list because they've got like Orlando Arcia and Tim Anderson on here. And let's be serious.
Right.
Miguel Rojas is on there. You want a winner, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, can't argue with that.
But what I guess, if I'm being serious, no to Bo Bichette.
I would say, I would absolutely say yes to Bo Bichette. I just feel like the Yankees have already told us like that. I think Anthony Volpe is supposed to miss like the first couple of weeks of the season. He had like surgery at the end of the year, but I think like the Yankees have pretty much already told us like once Anthony Volpe's healthy, he's going to be the everyday shortstop again. So like I would absolutely take Bo Bichette even with his injury concerns, attached. I would absolutely take him. I don't see it happening. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see it.
The one that's out there that does worry me that like if the wrong team got him, like he'd be a problem. Ha-Seong Kim, which very surprising because, and this one very underreported because the Rays had him and then they just cut him during the season, and then the Braves picked him up, which I'm like, oh no, they already have like Nick Allen, who is one of those defensive shortstops who's a pain in the ass, where it's like, yeah, he might not hit a whole lot, but he's going to make sure you don't either. And those are the worst. And then they got him. And I was like, man, Braves just like lucked into an upgrade. And then they let him go, which I'm like, is he just that bad of a presence in the clubhouse that just nobody wants anything to do with him? So, but if the Braves brought it back, I'd be worried about that. Like if the Yankees got him, it's like, man, that solves a lot of problems.
Yeah, can he play third base?
Play all over,
or is he just like pretty? Is he pretty exclusively a shortstop?
I feel like I've seen the Padres play him at second, play him at third, and some outfield.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen him move around a little.
The former Yankee Jorge Mateo's in there. I don't know how you feel about that.
we probably we probably don't need to we probably don't need to go down that road.
Can always use speed.
Yeah. Well, we have Caballero. I think we still have Jose
That's
Caballero.
true. That's true.
Yeah, he's our speed guy. And I
I'm looking
mean,
at, like,
I would
other
play
third
him over
basemen.
Volpe.
As far as the third basemen that are available, it's Bregman, which I know you've said, like, hey, depending on how flexible you get, maybe that's the play. Do you still feel a type of way about Eugenio Suarez, or is that one of those for what he's probably going to ask for him? That's probably not what we want.
Nah, I would. I'd pay him.
Okay. Paul DeYoung's on there. Paul DeYoung's just good to have like a random month where he decides to hit like prime A-Rod. I don't know why. Kike's out there again. If you want a winner,
yeah. Yeah, I think Kike will either re-sign with the Dodgers or I'm not
retire.
Yeah, which I think was his. That's kind of where he was at last year. But
the one that I'm for sure out on is Munetaka Murakami, he's the big Japanese back coming over.
Yeah,
I saw the number, and actually, let me pull this up because
he gets like less than 100 against pitches 93 miles an hour of fastballs.
My internal alarm has never been louder than when I read this stat. So I'm going to find it because I genuinely, my jaw dropped when I saw it, and I know that's an overused phrase, but I mean it when I say it, that I could not believe that I saw this. Yeah, this is here we go. Murakami against pitches that were 93 miles per hour or harder last season in MPB hit 0.95.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And I realized like MPB's in a supposed dead ball era. I mean, when we know that because every time we go to dunk on starting pitcher number 47, we've been told this, that it's like, man, they're teeing off on him and hitters don't even have it that good right now. But if he's supposed to be one of the top power hitters and that's what he's doing against any kind of cheese.
Yeah, against any type of competition like that. It definitely, definitely raises a lot of questions.
And there was a follow-up to it that said, the guy who posted this, I don't know what podcast with, but they said rates and barrels, I guess. They said they mentioned he had a 72% zone contact rate last year in the NPB. 72% zone contact comps in the MLB are not great.
No, certainly not ideal. I'm not too high on him, but he'll probably just end up on the Dodgers anyway. So they can have him. I don't care.
Yeah, they just had Hai-Song Kim floating around for no reason. So sure.
Yeah, and I guess we'll see where. Yeah, so I guess we'll see where Ha-Song Kim ends up. But
speaking of the Dodgers and outfielders, because we were talking about how we both were leaving this World Series with something. Michael Conforto has more rings than Aaron Judge.
Oh, go to hell. Straight to hell with that.
In the words of Kevin Lewis, when you go low, I go to hell.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess you're already there, so
that's right.
But stay there. Anyway, onto the Mets. So the Mets hired a new pitching coach recently. They hired Justin Willard, who was the director of pitching for the Red Sox prior to this. So now he is. So now is he like the Mets? Like, is he going to be considered like the Mets pitching director, or is he like the coach? Like,
I went and looked at the active roster. It does list him as the pitching coach, so there is that. One of the first things that I feel like everybody does this now as we've kind of gotten into modern times, but you always want to see, like, when you trade for someone or you hire someone from another team, it's okay, well, what are their fans saying?
Yeah.
And I was seeing a lot of posts of like, oh man, a lot of Red Sox fans were basically saying this.
They were
We
upset
haven't had
about it.
solid pitching prospects across the like at each level of the minors in our organization for some time. Like they haven't had development like this in a while. Like, yeah, the results haven't quite gotten there yet. Like, Houck's gotten through and Bayo's gotten through, and they're okay, but like we feel like we're in a pretty good position with who we have.
Mm-hmm.
And I was consistently seeing that. And I texted a couple of my Red Sox friends and I'm like, is this true? And they're like, oh yeah, we wish this wasn't happening, but he's got a chance for a promotion. So like, what were we going to do? We weren't going to fire Andrew Bailey. So that like this needed to happen.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, just it's the cost of doing business. But yeah, no, it's always good when you check and you see that the other team's fans are upset about like losing a player. Like I think like the Jets had a couple of moves where like they're like low key, like kind of savvy moves, like trading for like Jarvis Brownlee Jr. with the Titans, or like Harrison Phillips from the Vikings, or Koan Briggs from the Browns, where
Even
like
A.D. Mitchell.
Even A.D. Mitchell, who, I mean, if he could hold on to a football, then we might be in business. But like all moves where those are all examples of moves where you looked on Vikings Twitter or Titans Twitter after those trades happened, and they're all upset and like they're all kind of like, why did we do this? So, and so far those are all players that have worked out pretty well. So it does the while click culture does have its downfalls, this particular example of it does have a good track record.
I did see this posted. It was a feature about Willard. It said Boston brought him in to improve the organization's pitching development. In the story written by Ian Brown of MLB.com ahead of his first season with the team, Willard says he has a really simple approach when it comes to his pitching philosophy. Throw nasty stuff in the zone. You can have nasty stuff, but it's not going to be maximized if you're not in the zone. Sounds like a great idea. I would love that.
I guess sometimes it is just as simple as that.
And if we want to do some dot connecting here, before he came to Boston, he worked in the Twins organization, and he helped to develop Joe Ryan. We know who's a trade candidate this winter.
Yep. Yeah, so there is a connection there. So
I think that'd be neat.
It's something where, could this be a coach that potentially leads you to getting like another high level pitcher to your staff? I mean, if you trade for Joe Ryan, he's pretty much your ace.
I would love that. That would be. There's probably a list of, and I probably should have had it for this show, but maybe I'll have it for one of the other ones this offseason. But there's a list of probably about 7 or 8 guys where if it's the Mets made him the number one guy coming out of the offseason, I'd be like, all right. I would be happy with Joe Ryan. I'd be happy with Pablo Lopez. Like, Skubal is obviously the dream, but it's like, okay, like I can't go in walking into the offseason thinking we're just going to get him. Do I think Joe Ryan?
You also can't get into the like it's Skeens, Skubal, or bust.
Right.
I don't think Skeens gets moved this offseason. I think it's right now I'd say it's like a 5% chance he gets moved this offseason, and I think a 25% chance he gets moved at the trade deadline. Like, I still think he has at least one more full season with the Pirates. Skubal, that seems like a little more likely to happen this offseason. But, you probably can't get into the mentality of it's Skubal or bust. I mean, obviously that's plan A, but, that's plan A. But if you end up with Joe Ryan or Pablo Lopez or possibly both of them, that's not a bad falling back.
Yeah, like look at the Rangers a couple years ago. Like their ace was Nate Eovaldi, and if he was any team's marquee signing before that season, you'd have been like,
yeah, you'd be laughing at him.
Not even laughing because he did have something of a track record before that, but you'd be like, that's all right. That's a good
Yeah, no, it's like
start, but
it's underwhelming. It's underwhelming, and you're like, okay, like this isn't a guy who's moving the needle. This,
yeah, you'd be like,
like,
okay, good pitcher, but like, what are you
solid
winning?
pitcher, someone you can count on every fifth day. But is this really, is this really like this isn't someone that moves the needle or turns you into a World Series contender? I feel like that 2023 Rangers team needs to be like studied more,
It's
or just like the fall off from then also needs to be studied.
it's like between that and it's like Eovaldi's been hurt since Jordan Montgomery got paid and whatever happened there.
Yeah. Yeah, that we dodged a bullet there because I know we traded Jordan Montgomery for Harrison Bader, and at the time, and then Jordan Montgomery immediately started shoving in St. Louis, and everyone was kind of like, "Oh, like this guy wasn't good enough for you." And then he goes to Texas, pitches even better, wins the World Series with them. Yeah, and then there was talks about having a reunion with him in free agency, but the Diamondbacks, they shelled out the cash and they are probably regretting that decision.
They've been very public about that sort of thing.
Yeah, they've very publicly regretted that decision.
By the way, I am a Jordan Montgomery stan account because if nothing else, Jordan Montgomery once when they asked him about his wife, who's like, I think a surgeon. She's a doctor at the least. I think she might be a surgeon. And they're like, man, how do you two make it work? And he's just like, oh, she loves how dumb I am. We're a perfect balance for each other. And I'm like, me and who?
Yeah, no,
I'm trying to get like that.
He's goals. I was kind of one of the I feel like I was kind of one of the original Jordan Montgomery stans. Like when he first came up, I was like very when he first came up and started pitching, and I think it was 2017, 2018, I was very high on him. I was like, this guy has got to be part of the future.
I kind of get the vibe from how you're describing him. I feel like he's your Justin Turner. Because when Justin Turner was on the Mets, I was like, man, they should probably let him get a little bit more runway here. Like he's a decent player.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Mets let him go, I'm like, well, that stinks. Like, man, I hope he catches on somewhere. And then it turned into oh, how stupid could they be? It got flipped on us so much that it's like, man, fuck Justin Turner.
Yeah.
I actually liked him.
At this point, I'm not even fuck Jordan Montgomery, because it's like, why kick the man when he's already down? Although he's way up in his bank account,
the jewelry count.
But yeah, I have no qualms with the man. Happy for him, he got his ring. But yeah, maybe go home and be done with your wife. It's what she wants. Do you have any other thoughts on Justin Willard or Mets stuff in general, or should we go on to our
well, just I hopefully he's a man of his word, because as I've been pretty adamant about this since we started this iteration of the show in July 24, is walks have been a killer for this staff. It to me is probably the biggest reason that they lost the NLCS to the Dodgers, was they let so many different innings start or continue or get out of hand because they kept walking guys. What was the biggest reason that the starting pitching faltered this year? They couldn't put guys away. And hopefully we see a big change in that, regardless of who they sign or who they trade for. But I got to think, we're going to get to it in a little bit here, whether there's changes to this rotation or not, the guys that they bring back, kind of need to are largely responsible for what's happening. And it's because they were walking a lot of people.
Yeah, it all kind of started, with the rotation, the walks, which lead to all the long innings, which led to not staying in games long enough, which led to the bullpen imploding. It had a whole domino effect on the entire team and the entire organization. And yeah, we don't have to rehash that if you don't want to. I'm sure you don't.
Yeah, we're good there.
Yeah. But yeah, let's get to our season grades. We're gonna do season grades, and we're gonna do keep, trade, cut. So how do you want to do this? You want to do like, are we just giving the team a letter grade, or do you want to grade like different portions of the team, like management, hitting, pitching, bullpen, or
I'm going to keep it strictly to the on-field staff because
okay.
I kind of go back and forth with everything about Stearns all the time, and you know, we could go to bed tonight, and I could give Stearns one grade, and we could wake up tomorrow morning, and it's actually Stearns did get Ryan and Lopez.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's signing Michael King too, and it'd be like, well, fuck, got to change the grade again,
Yeah.
So this is basically just on. Here's what's happened in 2025. Here's what I think, but I'm keeping it to the people that had an everyday hand in it, and management and Mendoza and the coaching staff are part of that.
Okay. So managers, so coaches and players, basically, but not front office.
Correct.
All right. You want to go first with the Mets, or
so we'll
are
go,
we grading? Are we grading? Are we both give grades for each team? Like, so I'll grade the Mets and you grade the Yankees too. Like
I feel like I feel like it's better if we leave it to the
grading
things
our
that we
own
see
teams
every single day.
Okay, so we'll each grade our own teams.
Right.
All right. And then for the keep, trade, DFA, did you want to just go through like players that are like impending free agents or like on contracts that are, getting close to the end?
So I looked at who's on the 40-man roster, and I even like cut it up to where it's like I mentioned there's a few guys that they've brought up where it's like, yeah, they had to add them to the 40-man. They might not even have been up yet. It's like,
yeah,
well, I can't really give you a keep or something. Like I just don't have enough information there. And there's every chance that someone like Nick Morbido is used as trade bait. So who really knows there?
Yeah.
I did include impending free agents, like for keep. Obviously, you bring back Edwin and Pete because they have had tangible results with the organization. So it's, yes, you'd like to keep those guys around. So if you got that, and if you look at the Yankees 40-man roster where it's like, oh, we had that guy, he was just injured all year, and now he's healthy and he's active. But I'd still like for them to keep that player around, like that sort of thing. I'll kind of give you a template if you let me go first.
Yeah.
So that way you can kind of know, okay, this is what we're doing.
All right. Yeah, for sure. By all means. So the floor is yours. I guess we'll start with the grade. The New York Mets, their 2025 season grade.
I've got 2 A+, and I think it's kind of indicative, like once you hear why. One is AJ Minter, who I'm not sure if he completed the first month of the season, but he was exceptional for the maybe handful of appearances that he made this year. And honestly, his injury might have been one of the first people are looking for what was the canary in the coal mine moment this year. AJ Minter being that good and then having a season-ending injury like before April was over should have been a sign that things were not going to go well. And he was on a 2-year deal. His was a labrum, I believe. So I think there is a chance he pitches in 2026. Hopefully he's here. I mean, he clearly still has it. Like the talent's not the problem. The other A+ is a guy who's no longer here, and that's Anton Richardson. And without getting into the weeds of contracts and benefits and whatnot, how do you let a guy who we've talked about on the show, the Mets statistically are the slowest team in the league, and they had an over 90% success rate in stealing bases. He gave your $765 million superstar, he got him 38 steals. His career high before that was 12. How do you let that guy go out the door and end up on a division rival? How does that happen? That should have been... If he was asking for a promotion to a bench coach role and maybe they weren't so sure about doing that, okay. It doesn't sound like that was the issue. It just sounded like he wanted to be better compensated and wanted benefits. And if that was the extent of it, that's a legitimate fuck up from this organization that they let that happen to a guy who was one of the few guys that was very reliable in 2025. To me, there has not been an explanation where it's like, okay, well, maybe they had no choice. No, they could have got this done and they didn't.
Yeah.
But Anton Richardson, we thank you for your service.
Salute to Anton Richardson.
The Solidays, pretty much the guys that you know. Juan Soto, who, for a guy who sucks, finished third in the MVP voting. Wow, very unfortunate there. Francisco Lindor, another top 10 MVP finish. I believe that's now 3 or 4 with the Mets. Again, for someone who can't handle New York. Edwin Diaz, who earned National League Reliever of the Year, and an All-MLB team thing, which, stay tuned, might be something we do this offseason. I'm willing to give Nolan McClain an A for this year. This season might have gone further off the rails than it did if not for Nolan McClain coming in and being a certainty over the last month plus of the season. One of the few things that Mets fans can go into next year being like, man, I can't wait to see that guy. I can't wait to see what he's going to do next.
Yeah.
One of the few beacons coming out of this year. And another guy that I hope the Mets eventually keep, although I guess I'm kind of spoiling that, Brooks Raley, who was tremendous as the one lefty guy. He was a high leverage guy that you could put in to be the fireman. You could put him in as the 8th inning guy. You could kind of put him in wherever you needed him to be. And yes, lefties are his strength, but also could get righties out. And if they're serious about making a run next year, Brooks Raley needs to be in the fold. A minuses, another guy whose season got cut short to injury, which was partly because of overuse, which was a result of the rotation. Max Kranick was fantastic until he started to physically get overworked.
Yeah.
We won't see him in 2026. He's got Tommy John. I believe it's his second. Would love to see him find a way back somehow because he was excellent. Tyler Rogers, I think, kind of gets an unfair rap. He gets lumped in with Ryan Helsley a little bit. Wasn't perfect, but more often than not got the job done. And I'll offer my thoughts later on when we get to keep sell. Chris Davinsky was kind of on that bullpen shuttle all year. I don't know why he was. Should have just been here the whole time. Generally was excellent. A guy that they let get away during the season, Rico Garcia. They let him go to Baltimore because they kept doing the thing where he was out of options. And I felt like every time they called on Rico Garcia was excellent. Under the categories of B+, I put Pete Alonso because, yes, overall, great season. But his slump over June and July, which not his fault.
Kind of.
Because he did get hit on the hand, which, again, nothing.
Do you look back on that and feel like maybe that's like kind of what started the whole June swoon and like kind of the
one of two things.
Ultimately, the downfall of the season.
I think it's that and his toss to Senga that got Senga injured, and that's really where the starting pitching problems snowballed from there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But on the whole, over 40 home runs, drove in over 100. And it was hit. I've hammered this point a lot, but was some of the best overall hitting he had ever done before he took that pitch off the hand. He was working counts. He was drawing walks. He was hitting for contact. He was using all fields again, which was a trademark of his when he first came up. There's a lot of different ways that I feel about him, and we'll deal with that in a little bit. Brett Beatty gets a B+ because, again, he'll hit around 250, and I think if you didn't watch the Mets every day, you'd look at that line and go, it's okay. But if you've watched this team over the past 4 years and how much was expected of Brett Beatty, you watched him hit this year, and you saw the defense that he played at third base, which was very unexpected. He earned that B+. And so some may think that's a little too high. I think it's just right for him. Another guy who was stuck on the bullpen shuttle, Kevin Herget, seemingly produced every time they called him up. I don't know why he was always in that. Jose Castillo's another guy. Seemingly every time that he came up, like whether he was in a mop-up job, whether he got put into a close game, Jose Castillo generally did his job. So he earns a B+. The one solid B goes to Griffin Canning. I think could have been on his way to earning something higher. And here's another moment that
he was a Cy Young candidate for the first 2 months of the year.
he was. And another moment that may have
DJ
him tearing his Achilles.
Yeah.
The B minuses, I will go to Starling Marte, who I know the line doesn't look great, but really turned into a great contact hitter this year, which, like, yes, he's in his later 30s. His body's been beat up, especially during his time in New York, especially over 23 and 24. He was a diminished player. But generally, Starling Marte became someone that as 2025 went along, you felt like when he came up, you're like, all right, we might get something here. Like, not necessarily an extra base hit, but he's going to do something. You know, everyone wants to have guys that are a home run threat every time, and those are great. But you're like, Marte's going to get a hit here. He's going to do something. And he became one of those guys again. He wasn't quite the player that he was his first year here, which remains very underrated. But I would say he was about 80% of that. And I guess this is a spoiler for later. I wouldn't hate them bringing him back. If nothing else, appears to be beloved by that team.
Yeah.
Can't hurt. Clay Holmes, I'm going to give a B- too. And I think this might be considered controversial. When you look at the body of work on the whole, for someone who was going back to starting pitching after 7 years, pitched well over 100 innings more than his career high as a professional, did all right. Were there some very frustrating stretches?
Oh, yeah.
1,000%. If he had 2 better starts, do the Mets have a better season? Yes, they do. But like when you take everything in totality, for what they asked him to do, okay, like that's a 3 or a 4. And I said it throughout the season. I think he will be better prepared next year to handle that workload and might even be a better pitcher. We might get better results next year from that. Again, it looked really good over the first 2 months. And then I think the workload started to take a toll on him. And then in September, wasn't great, but generally did enough in his starts to where it's like, okay, are you going to go win the game? When he came out, where it's, hey, he left you enough room offense, you go get it. So, and also credit to him, he had his John Maine, Johan Santana game 161 moment against the Marlins where they absolutely needed him to be great, and he was. So, on the whole, I would give Clay Holmes a B- for year 1 in New York. The C pluses, it's going to go to the duo of Francisco Alvarez and Luis Torrens because I feel like you can't really separate them.
Yeah.
Alvarez made tremendous strides at the plate once he came back from his demotion. And if he could just stay healthy, which seems to be a huge if for him, I think we could see another upswing for him next year. Luis Torrens was a Gold Glove finalist. And for a backup catcher, can't ask for much more. And I know he had some stretches where he was non-competitive. He also had that stretch in late August, early September, where he was the father that stepped up while Alvarez was hurt. So I got no issue with him. Reed Garrett gets a C+ because I feel like it's been a traditional Reed Garrett season. Starts great, then gets overworked and looks like ass, and then rounds into form at the end, except this time, as he was rounding into form, I believe this is his second Tommy John surgery, so we're not going to see him in 2026. And I'll also give it to the duo of Brandon Sproat and Jonah Tong. Both had good starts. Both had moments and stretches and starts where you're like, okay, this was what they were talking about when they were in the minor leagues. These were who we were promised. And they also had moments where you're like, okay, they probably were rushed up and weren't ready, which not their fault, but also in the heat of the pennant race, like you need every game you can get. I certainly am not writing either one of them off. I still could both of them show up and deliver in 2026? Absolutely. But can I say it unequivocally based on what we saw over the final month of the season? Not really. My C's would be Jeff McNeil. Again, had some stretches where you could not get him out, and then
I remember that second leg of the Subway Series. He was a problem.
But then there were also times where he was put in the deep freezer. So it's Tyrone Taylor gets a C.
He also did give you some pretty solid play in center field as well.
Which is why I would give him the C, because it's like they also asked him to do something he'd never done before, and generally did it well. Yeah. Now, is that something you want him to have to do every night? No.
Yeah, I'd maybe bump him up to a C+ for that.
I'll hear that case.
I'll hear that case.
Tyrone Taylor gets a C. If just, I feel like this might be a controversial opinion, but I could understand why the Mets wanted an upgrade in center, because like he was having some miserable stretches at the plate. But if you've got someone where it felt like 2 to 3 times a week, Tyrone Taylor would make a play where you're like, how many other guys in the league are getting to that? And if you've got something that you can do exceptionally well above average from the rest of the league, you're valuable. And if nothing else, like if Tyrone Taylor is just your fourth outfielder as the guy who can spell your starter or the guy who comes in as a late game defensive replacement, you're good.
Yeah, you're in good shape.
I think they were hoping that they didn't have to play him as much as they did. I think they were hoping Jose Siri was going to become an everyday center fielder, which never happened.
Right.
The All-Star David Peterson gets a C. Again, first half Peterson was an A+. The second half, whatever happened there.
Yeah, he failed a lot of tests and almost failed out of school.
Yeah, I was talking about an extension throughout this season, and I do not believe in that right now.
Yikes!
It could be one back, but boy, Huáscar Brazoban gets a C. I feel like it's a little overhated because he, like Reed Garrett, had some stretches this season where it's like, okay, he's actually kind of reliable. We might be all right. And then as soon as you think that, Brazoban will be like, actually, pal.
Yeah.
Gregory Soto
sure about that?
What was that?
Yeah, are you sure about that?
Gregory Soto gets a C, and in retrospect, I think I might have been a little too friendly on him.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. The C minuses, Justin Hagenman, just a guy that just please get him out of my face. If at any point in 2026 I hear Gary Cohen saying that'll bring on Hagenman, I'm walking into my pool.
Yeah.
And I'm not coming back up. Mark Vientos gets a C- because it was rough for stretches.
Oh, yeah.
But down the stretch, we saw 2024 Mark Vientos again. But I do think 2026 is all right, what do you want to be here? What are you going to be here? I kind of think they need to have their definitive answer about him when we get to this time next year. Or maybe they have it already, which we'll get to. Kodai Senga gets a C- because really good before that injury. Not quite 2023 Senga, but pretty good. And then the injury happened, and I wonder if it's recoverable, because we've heard him talk about confidence. We've seen lost velocity on the fastball, and I just wonder if it's just gone.
Yeah.
Don't have a D+. A D goes to Luis Angel Acuna because there are tools there that can help a major league team. He is a good defender. We've seen that in multiple seasons now. The speed obviously plays. You've got to hit a little bit. It's got to be something where I've got to see you come up to the plate and I've got to think, all right, we might get something here. Whereas most times when Acuna's up, it's, oh boy. Well, maybe he'll run into one.
Yeah. You're just hoping that it's like, today's the day.
A D-, and I hate to say this, Sean Manaea, which I'm not out on him. I do think his 2025 was heavily affected by injury, but
you got to put him on a PIP.
Yeah, it's when you get a $75 million deal, like, you've got to pitch like that guy, and that did not happen. Dickie Lovelady, only because I can't give Dickie Lovelady an F. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Blade Tidwell, if only because he did allow us to get Tyler Rogers back in a deal, so there's that. But other than that, his actual field results, And only because he had a 10 strikeout game does Tyler McGill not get an F and actually gets a D- in here. But again, get the fuck out of my face. Which thankfully he will, because he won't pitch in 2026. He got Tommy John, so I'm not gonna have to deal with this shit next year.
Yeah. No, heal up, rest up, but heal up and rest up. Just do it far away from me.
Yeah. And I'm gonna give my incompletes before my Fs. Guys that where it's just like I just don't think there was enough body of work. Ronnie Mauricio, like I think fans can feel a way about him, but I also don't think he's ever really gotten enough runway to. I don't know how anybody could really have definitive proof that they know for sure one way or the other what he is. He might not be anything, very possible, but I've also seen him do enough things on the field where it's like that guy probably should have gotten a little more playing time than he did.
Yeah,
Just me. Jesse Winker, very disappointing, but also like 2 freak injuries, and one of them happened right after he came back from the other injury. Like that's just rotten luck. I can't say he had a failure of a season when it's like things happened to him. That wasn't like he just sucked. He was hurt. I can't really hold that on to him. Hayden Senger being the third catcher, and then at times when Alvarez was either down in Syracuse or backing up Torrens, pressed into a situation that they probably never wanted him to be in. So I can't really say too much about him. Same with Jose Budo. Again, kind of used very spotty and, did get us Tyler Rogers. I even said at the time, I felt like Jose Budo would be missed, and I do still think that is true to some degree. I think there is value in having a guy like that in your bullpen. Hopefully they'll be able to find someone else like that going forward. And the Fs. It's got to start with Ryan Helsley. Like, use build in that trade as well. Now the Mets have a super bullpen of Rogers, Helsley, and Diaz, and then that just did not happen, largely because of him. This was an all-star, all-MLB closer, and this was like every bad Mets reliever of my lifetime rolled into one, and injected with whatever shit Barry Bonds had. Like just, your shit here. Let's make this even worse.
Terry, that makes it even worse.
Yeah, Cedric Mullins has to be on there.
Yeah, he's an F student for sure.
Jose Siri's an F because the first half I wouldn't have held against him, but down the stretch, unplayable. Jared Young, another guy I never want to see again in a Met uniform. Ryan Stanek, what more needs to be said there? I know he is a friend of the show, and he was DFA'd today, but this is strictly baseball related. Frankie Montas, like, he gave you $34 million. Like, needed more than that.
Yeah,
I nothing personal here, but just on results. Paul Blackburn,
he's family, but
Paul Blackburn, y'all saw that.
Yeah,
and I am giving Carlos Mendoza an F for 2025 because, as I said, the day at the end of the season, I largely thought this wasn't his fault until the way he handled game 162.
Yeah, and then you kind of probably stop and think about it. You're like, wait, he's been doing it this whole time.
Yeah, and I feel like he's very much in the 2008 Willie Randolph spot. Hopefully he beats the allegations. I want him to.
Yeah. I mean, do you think he's on the hot seat this year? Like, this is
for sure.
That he's got to beat the allegations this year.
If we get to the middle of June and they're barely above 500 or barely below 500, I think the same thing happens.
Yeah, or if they come out the gate super slow, like he could be like a May firing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see it. That was very very insightful. While you were doing that, I drafted up my grades for the Yankees. So I can share those. So I got 2 A+. We got Aaron Judge and David Bednar. Aaron Judge, what really can you say? Third MVP, should have been his fourth.
I'm glad we're not lying about Cal Raleigh anymore. Bednar, he was obviously a late season acquisition at the deadline, but aside from like blowing that save in that first game, he was really lights out the whole time. So those are both like A+ guys, like really no blemishes on the resume whatsoever. We got a few A's to give out, solid A's, and they're all starting pitchers. I'm giving Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, and Cam Schlittler all an A. I know it was a small sample size for Schlittler, but
he earned that.
He earned that, especially with what he did against Boston in the playoffs. But Fried and Rodon, Fried would have gotten an A+, but he did have that. He did have like that month stretch or so where he was where he looked really bad before befriending that squirrel. Rodon, very good, very solid, pretty much all year. A hiccup here and there, but I think this was Rodon's best year as a Yankee yet. In the A- category, I got Jazz with an A-. Jazz would have been an A or an A+, and this not really to any fault of his own, but when he was playing out of position at third, he did make a lot of errors. So, I can't really blame that on him, but, sometimes your grade, sometimes when you're in a group project and, there's outside factors that affect your grade. So, unfortunately, I got to give Jazz an A- instead of an A or an A+. I give Tim Hill an A-. I feel like he is like the unsung hero of our bullpen. He's like, he's like the one like pretty good lefty arm that we have in our bullpen. And I always feel good about a game when Tim Hill's coming in. Does he have the nastiest stuff? No, but I always feel, he's not perfect, but I always feel like pretty good about, we're going to get out of whatever mess, whatever mess he's inheriting. I feel pretty good about him getting out of it with minimal to no damage. Bellinger, I give him an A-. He looked pretty bad that first month of the season, but really from there up until the playoffs, he was great for us. He even had some great defensive plays. Grisham, I'm torn between. I wrote down A- for Grisham, but I'm a little torn. I might switch that to a B+ just because of the streakiness there. Actually, no, fuck it. Grisham was really good. He deserves an A-. I'll give him an A-. I have one B+, and that is Ben Rice. He probably would have been an A student for me, but unfortunately, the bad luck just kind of caught up to him. In the solid B category, I'm giving Giancarlo Stanton a solid B. Obviously he missed a good chunk of the season with injury, but when he came back, he was really good. But the reason Giancarlo is getting a B and not an A is because he disappeared in October, which is obviously very unlike him. But I think the reason you have Giancarlo Stanton on this roster is for what his back can do in October.
That's the reputation that he earned too. So when you go into October, you feel like you can put in pen. Well, Giancarlo's going to hit. We don't have to worry about that. So when he doesn't, it's only fair to call that back out.
So I think he has to. He has a So he falls in the solid B. I'm going to give Ryan McMahon a solid B. I talked before about how you want more pop out of the third base position, but for a deadline acquisition, I feel like Ryan McMahon was overall very solid. You were having, obviously he was an upgrade over fucking DJ LeMahieu, who I forgot to even give him a grade, but he will get an F. But we'll get to him when we get to the bottom of the barrel. I didn't do one for like every single player, just either the ones who are starting every day or the ones that had like a significant enough role on the team that they were involved fairly regularly. So yeah, give Ryan McMahon a solid B because I thought he did about what you could ask for him offensively and very solid defensively. Also just seemed like he injected some life into that team at the deadline when they desperately needed it. So yeah, solid B for McMahon. A couple of B minuses. I'll give Will Warren a B minus for his rookie campaign. He had his ups and downs. He had that one game where he got absolutely shelled against the Dodgers. And there are a few other rocky outings here and there, but I do think overall, it wasn't like a Luis Gil rookie campaign by any means, but not rookie of the year stuff, but overall, I think a solid year and something to build on. So I give Will Warren a B minus. I also give Jose Caballero a B minus. I think given his role, I mean, he should have played more. If we weren't so committed, if we weren't so committed to our shitty starting shortstop. But I think overall, Caballero did pretty good. He did what you expected him to do when he came in games. He stole bases. He got on base. He stole bases. He was pretty good defensively. He did have the one error where he was playing out of position in that walk-off loss against the Marlins, which was the first game after the trade deadline. But overall, solid body of work. But nothing spectacular. So he gets a B minus. Got a couple of C pluses to hand out in the C plus club. We got Devin Williams. I was teetering between either a C plus or a B minus because at times I do think the hate maybe got a little too loud for Devin Williams, but this was a pretty rough year for him. It was a pretty rough year for him. It got a little better at times and he settled in, but he never truly settled in. And I think even he would probably tell you this was like the worst year of his career. So, I got a C plus for him. I have a C plus for our catching tandem as a whole, Austin Wells and JC Escara. Both solid, both very solid behind the plate. Not really giving you a whole lot offensively, but nothing really to write home about, but nothing really to complain about either. Give Luis sure.
Real quickly, Chris, I did see rumors today of people trying to link the Mets to Devin Williams, and I just would like to see the following statement. No.
And I would be okay. I would be okay with bringing him back.
I just cannot understand. It's like we have the firsthand experience. Why? For who? To do what? Yeah. Especially if it's we can't match what the offer for Diaz is. Like that would be a devastating one too. But go ahead.
All good. Back to my list here. All right, so we were at the C. Yeah, C pluses. Yeah, I saw those rumors about Devin Williams, and I wouldn't mind keeping him because I think he's got a bounce back year in him. Luis Gil is a solid C. Unfortunately, he followed up his rookie of the year campaign with, kind of a lackluster year. Some of it was his fault. Some of it was his fault. Some of it wasn't. Obviously, I mean, really, he didn't. You know what? I'm going to give him a C plus because he actually finished with a pretty. Solid ERA, 3.32
in total for most major league starters, unless you're an upper echelon guy like Skeens or somebody like that, where you're just that great right out of the box. I think everybody goes through a second year like this where they've got a book on you now. Everybody's got your tell, all of that. So now year 3 is your counter of, well, all right, how are you going to work around this?
Yeah,
you had your advantage in year 1. They had their advantage year 2. what are you going to do?
Yeah. So, I feel like, 2026 could be the year where we really find out about Luis Gil, which I feel like it's a low risk, high reward situation at this point. Because, I mean, like, if he returns to the form of his rookie year, like, that's fantastic. But, like, if not, you have Cole, Fried, Rodon, and Schlittler. You just find another fifth starter. So like I feel like there shouldn't be too much pressure on him. So like for that reason, I feel like he could have a pretty good bounce back year here. He'll have a little bit of competition with Will Warren as well. In the C- category, I'm giving Camilo Duval a C-. He just unfortunately, we had very high hopes, high expectations when we acquired him. But I feel like, unfortunately, he just didn't really – he was kind of like our Ryan Helsley trade where he just kind of didn't live up to it. Maybe not to the degree of, like, getting an F, but more often than not, it was kind of a shit show when he was out there. So I'll give Duvall a C-. I'm also going to give Jason Dominguez a C-. Because, I mean, I think Dominguez finished the season with, like, an OPS in like maybe the 700s or something like that. Which, given what we were expecting from him, was pretty underwhelming. So yeah, just kind of underwhelming returns altogether with Jason Dominguez. So I give him a C-, although it was like not the largest sample size ever. And then for D's, throw some D's on these bitches. I'm giving Clark Schmidt a D+ / incomplete.
I'm glad you do that.
Yeah, I'm giving Clark Schmidt a D+ / incomplete. He wasn't really pitching great before he got hurt. And then he got hurt. So yeah, D+ for Clark Schmidt. Mark Leiter Jr. gets a D. Get him the fuck off my team. I
thought that might be coming.
I have one more incomplete, and that's Oswaldo Cabrera. Although he was on track for a solid B before he broke his leg. Now for the Fs, I got Ozzy Peraza with an F+. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, but I guess his defense was fine and what he was there for was fine. So F+ for Ozzy Peraza. DJ LeMahieu gets a solid F, and then we got Anthony Volpe with an F-. And then for coaching, I gave Boone a C, and I gave Matt Blake a B+.
No, that's pretty fair with Blake, where Fried was mostly good, Rodon was mostly good, and then you get the added bonus of Schlittler becoming someone that you can count on right away, and someone who kind of became a weapon in the postseason. Where when you go into the playoff series with a rookie, it's all right. Well, just let him get through it. If he pitches all right, that's a win. But Cam Schlittler then became a guy of like, all right, we got him going. We got a shot. And credit, obviously, the pitching development staff in the minors that had him ready to go. But you've got to have a guy on your bench that can always be talking to him, not just during the starts, but on his days off. Like, I think that's where a lot of the work gets done, is when you've got that one-on-one time to just say, hey, next time, if they're looking for that. You see that little thing you're doing there? They're watching.
Yeah, just those
clean that up.
Just those little subtle movements of that tip pitches. And the fact that he's like, Cam Schlittler's already kind of become like somewhat of an icon in New York. Like he's already got like the fan clubs, like he's been seen like outside. He's been seen at like the Knicks games. I think one fan like walked up to him and was like, "Yo, can you give us a fuck Boston?"
and he like very quietly said "fuck Boston." He's kind of, some people are being weird towards his family for, growing up in Boston and being Red Sox fans, but switching to the Yankees because, God forbid you root for your fucking son or brother or whoever. So he's kind of become like a prominent figure in New York and in the Yankees organization. So
I will say, probably don't want to use what appears to be an AI response when you want to put out like a notes app. Maybe not apology, but he clearly wanted to address the situation.
Yeah.
But someone noticed it's like, hey, look, there's the little thought bubble on the bottom. They didn't clip that out, and it's like,
yeah,
things are not that hard, man. We've been doing this for 50 years.
Yeah, man. We used to write papers the old-fashioned way by reading Wikipedia articles and creatively rewording them.
Hey, loose lips, baby.
I'm just we used to be a proper country. That's all I'm gonna say. But so those are our grades. We're actually because we're kind of running, over time. We're gonna do the keep trade cut portion of the programming next time we record. So that's gonna pretty much that's pretty much gonna do it for this one. You got any final thoughts as we as we go, as we get deeper into the hot stove?
I think we pretty much hit that.
Yeah,
good to be back in a groove after some time off.
Yeah, good to be back. Good to be back on the feed, back on the pod. Of course, make sure if you aren't already, what the hell are you doing? But make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Make sure you're subscribed to the Middle Initial Podcast YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed to their Twitch, everywhere they stream their episodes, and of course, make sure you're following the socials, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
See ya.